Revelation chapter 12. John, in the midst of a vision, a series of visions. And a great sign was seen in the heaven, a woman clad with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And being pregnant, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And another sign was seen in the heaven, and see a great fiery red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on his head. And his tail draws a third of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth to devour her child as soon as it was born. And she, the woman, bore a male child, who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished there 1,260 days. And there came to be fighting in the heaven. Michael and his messengers fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his messengers fought, but they were not strong enough, nor was a place found for them in the heaven any longer. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heaven, "Now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, who accused them before our Elohim day and night, has been thrown down. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to the death. Because of this, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has little time." And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle, to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she was nourished for a time and times and half a time from the presence of the serpent. And out of his mouth the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman, to cause her to be swept away by the river. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of his mouth. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua Messiah. So John's having one hell of a vision here. Let's see if we can break it down a little bit. This great sign seen in the heaven, many people believe this was a particular constellation in the heavens that made itself manifest on September 23rd, 2017. Allegedly, and there's a documentary called The Sign, or you can research September 23rd, 2017, astrological conjunction. And there was a formation of stars, Virgo, the Virgin, and the sun was over her shoulder and the moon was under her feet, this Virgin, and over her head was this constellation of stars making this sign. And astrologists and astrologers said that this sign hadn't been seen in the heavens since the time of Yeshua, and that this was pointing to this sign in the heaven was this Revelation 12 sign. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. Because if we're working off this timeline that John has given us here, that sign was in 2017, and I am recording this in July of 2022. Almost, 5 years later? Almost. 5 years. And a time and times and half a time is 3.5 years. So, now, maybe that timeline hasn't started yet, because this second sign in verse 3, another sign was seen in the heaven, a great fiery red dragon. And they have lots of words for lots of things in the Greek that this was written in, and it means dragon. So what will it look like? A dragon. This fiery red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns on its head. The 7 heads, 7 being the number of Yah's perfection on the earth. 3 for the perfection of Yah, and 4 for the 4 corners of the earth in biblical numerics. There's a very good book called Divine Numerics by Dr. Michael McGee. Recommend you pick it up. And it is not divination and garbage. It's simply a collection of numbers in the Bible and the discussion around causation versus correlation with these numbers. So, 7 being the number of Yah's perfection on the earth. 10 horns. 10 is the number of divine power. Horns represent power and authority, right? And these 7 crowns on the 7 heads. Same thing with the crowns. Ordination, authority. The thing is, this dragon, this beast, is not of Yah. It's a copycat. It's a make-believe. This is of the enemy, and we've talked about previously, the enemy doesn't have any new tricks up his sleeve. He's a copycat. Everybody likes to talk about the mark of the beast that the enemy, Hasatan, is going to put on all these people in the one world system. But where did he get that from? The Father sealed his people in the forehead first in Revelation 7. We haven't even made it to the mark of the beast yet here in Revelation. The Father already sealed his people in the forehead. Goes all the way back to the renewed covenant and Hebrews chapter 8, having the Father's laws on your mind and written on your heart, sealed in the forehead. So this second beast, the dragon here, this second sign, the dragon rather, represents false power and authority, and with his tail he draws 1/3 of the stars from the heaven and throws them to the earth. These stars are understood to be fallen angels. There's a lot of places that we can go to look at this. Isaiah 14, for example. I must admit, I'm a little scatterbrained. It's incredibly hot in here. Isaiah 14, verse 12. How you have fallen from the heavens, O Hallel, son of the morning, Lucifer. You have been cut down to the ground. You have been laid low. You who laid low the nations. So, Satan, Hasatan falling, right? What about Jude 1 verse 6? Come on, fingers. Revelation. Jude 1 verse 6. Wrong page. There we go. And the messengers, the angels, who did not keep to their own principality, but left their own dwelling, he has kept in everlasting shackles under darkness for the judgment of the great day. So we're having an issue with angels here staying where they're supposed to be. So Revelation 12:4, and his tail, the dragon's tail, draws 1/3 of the stars of the heaven and throws them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, to devour her child as soon as it was born. The woman is understood to be the church, but it's also indicative of Miriam, Mary, the mother of Yeshua. The child is Yeshua, but it's also Israel. And if you think back, all the way back to the garden, the enemy, Hasatan, did not want Yeshua to be born. What does the Father tell the snake? that the woman's offspring, you shall bite his heel, but he shall crush your head. Right? So this battle goes all the way back to the garden. The enemy has been trying to blot out the bloodline from Adam since jump. That's why you see the fallen angels, the Nephilim, they were the watchers, and then the great giants, and then the Nephilim, and then the Iliud in Genesis chapter 6, verse 4, which precedes the great flood. Why? Because all flesh had become corrupted. That bloodline was on the verge of being wiped out. And then out of Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, out of the bloodline of Shem, you get the Evrites, who become the Hebrews. Right? But Ham goes to Canaan, bad guy, Ham. From Ham, we get Nimrod. All the way forward to the killing of the firstborn. Why was Herod trying to kill the firstborn? Well, Herod understood it that a new king had been born. And it was a power struggle between this new king that had been born and Herod. But all of it comes back to the machinations of the enemy trying to wipe out the bloodline. From Adam, the first man, all the way down to Yeshua. Because without Adam, you don't get Abraham. Without Abraham, no Isaac, no Jacob. Without Jacob, right, the father's chosen, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, who becomes Israel. Without Israel, we don't get Judah. Without the house of Judah, we don't get King David. Without King David, we don't get Joseph and the bloodline of Yeshua, Matthew chapter 1. It's been about the preservation of this seed, the preservation of this bloodline, and the enemy hates that, and he has been trying to kill the child since it was born. And so you can look at that metaphorically as Miriam and Yeshua, or you can look at it metaphorically as the woman, the church, or Hava, the woman, Eve, the woman, and the elimination of the Father's chosen people. But either way, and in both cases, the enemy has been trying to kill them to kill us from jump. Why? Because if this situation matures down the timeline that Yah has ordained, the enemy loses, and he knows that. What better way than to just take the key players off the battlefield early on and not have to fight the battle at all? But we see in verse 5, and she bore a male child, who was to shepherd all nations with a rod of iron. This is Yeshua. And she did. Miriam did bear Yeshua, but also she, the Hebrews, the Father's chosen people, the Israelites, she did bear this child, who was to shepherd all nations, because again, the tribe of Judah, the lineage of David, Yeshua. And her child, and by the way, shepherd with a rod of iron. A rod of iron doesn't give. It's stern, it's forceful, it's still loving, but it's not a polite way to shepherd. And her child was caught away to Elohim and to his throne. Well, now, very clearly, we know that this is Yeshua we're talking about, because we can see the Revelation 4 imagery that we already covered of Yeshua in the throne room with Yah. And the woman, the church, now, fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by Elohim to be nourished for 1,260 days. There are people in the wilderness right now who are preparing a place for the woman, the remnant, for people that they've not even met, because the Father has convicted them to do so. I guess the word that I would say here is, if the Father has put that conviction on your heart, be obedient to it. Because I frankly don't know where we are in the timeline. We haven't seen these two witnesses yet that we read about in Revelation chapter 11. So in my interpretation, we're not there yet. But this stuff kicks off quickly. And it takes a long time to prepare a place in the wilderness. And so if the Father has put that on your heart, be obedient to it, because you don't know whose life you'll be saving. Of course, we have this Revelation 11 verse 3 imagery here of the two witnesses prophesying 1,260 days, which comes from Daniel. Daniel chapter 12. And there came to be fighting in the heaven, Michael and his messengers. Now remember, we talked about Michael in Daniel chapter 12 previously. Michael is the guardian angel of the Israelites, of the Hebrews. It's actually pretty cool to think about, like, Michael is up there battling Hasatan for you. It's pretty awesome, actually. And Michael and his messengers, his angels, they fought against the dragon. And the dragon and his messengers, his angels, fought. But they weren't strong enough, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer. And so they're thrown to the earth. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. Yeshua talks about this in Luke, Matthew, Mark, Luke 10. Come on, fingers. (10:18). And he, Yeshua, said to them, I saw Satan falling out of the heaven as lightning. See, I give you authority to trample on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy, and none at all shall hurt you. But do not rejoice in this, that the spirits are subject to you, but rather rejoice because your names have been written in the heavens. So Satan falling like a bolt of lightning. So these angels are thrown out by Michael. Now, the interesting thing here is, until this time, Hasatan, the enemy, has been sitting at the throne of the Most High, accusing the saints, accusing the brethren. He's now on the earth. He's now let loose. And he knows his time is short. In fact, we can read that. He knows his time is short. And the great dragon was thrown out, that serpent of old called the devil and Satan, who leads all the world astray. He was thrown to the earth, and his messengers were thrown out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in the heavens, Now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign of our Elohim and the authority of his Messiah, for the accuser of our brothers who accused them before our Elohim day and night has been thrown out. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their witness, and they did not love their lives to death. This is a continuing quote here. Now, if we look at the context with which both Elohim and Messiah are referred to, it's probably safe to say that this is Michael making this announcement. Now have come the deliverance and the power and the reign, the kingdom of our Elohim, and the authority of his Messiah. For the accuser of our brothers, Satan, who accused them before our Elohim day and night, has been thrown down. So now, it's almost as if now the clock is starting, right? Now has come the deliverance and the power and the kingdom of our Elohim, because Satan's been thrown out of heaven. He's now on the earth. And they, this is us, the saints, and this is warfare. This is war on the saints here. And they, the saints, overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb, Yeshua, and the word of their witness. And they did not love their lives to the death. Because of this, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. So those who are in the heavens are rejoicing. Satan's gone. But woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has little time. Woe. It's almost as if Michael's saying, hey, stay frosty. You can overcome by the blood of the Lamb, Yeshua, and because of the word of their witness, the word of Yah, the commands, and not loving your life unto death. It's not your way, it's Yahweh, as we're fond of saying. Loving your life to the death. We see here these people are fleeing to the wilderness. Do you love your life in the city so much that you wouldn't flee to the wilderness, loving your life unto death? Think about that. And if you wouldn't, are you negating the good works that the people in the wilderness who have been convicted to prepare a place for you have done? Interesting philosophical question. Verse 13, and when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. That's the church. That's the saints, the believers. And the woman was given two wings of a great eagle, to fly into the wilderness to her place, where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time, 3.5 years. This is from Daniel 7:25. From the presence of the serpent. Many call this the second Exodus. We'll look at Exodus super quick. Exodus 19. It's dark in here. I need a lamp. Exodus 19 verse 4. Yah speaking. We'll start in 3. And Moshe went up to Elohim, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, this is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Mitzrites, the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice, and shall guard my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession above all peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a set-apart nation. Those are the words you are to speak to the children of Israel. Eagle's wings, covenants. Interesting. Deuteronomy 32. Verse 11. Deuteronomy 32 is straight fire, by the way, if you ever find yourself just needing something to read. As an eagle stirs up its nest, flutters over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, bearing them on its wings, Yahweh alone led them, and there was no strange mighty one with him. He made him ride in the heights of the earth, and he ate the fruits of the field, and he made him draw honey from the rock and oil from the flinty rock, curds from the cattle and milk from the flock, with the fat of lambs and the rams of the breed of Bashan, and goats with the choicest wheat, and you drank wine and the blood of grapes. But Yeshurun, the upright one, grew fat and kicked and grew fat and thick. You were covered with fat. So he forsook Eloha who made him, and scorned the rock of his deliverance. In Isaiah 40:28, Yeshayahu. Did you not know, have you not heard, the everlasting Elohim, Yahweh, the creator of the ends of the earth, neither faints nor is weary. He is understanding and unsearchable. He gives power to the faint, and to those who have no might he increases strength. Even youths shall faint and be weary, and young men shall stumble and fall. But those who wait on Yahweh renew their strength and raise up wings like eagles. They run and are not weary. They walk and do not faint. Verse 15. Well, so we see again here in 14, this woman is removed by the hand of Yah, the wings, 2 wings of a great eagle, to fly into the wilderness to her place, the place being prepared for her in verse 6, where she is nourished for 3.5 years from the presence of the serpent, away from the presence of the serpent. So if we do a little deductive reasoning here, the serpent is not in the wilderness. Maybe key talking point here. The serpent is not in the wilderness. Further deductive reasoning, where would the serpent be? What's the opposite of the wilderness? The built up places. Verse 15. And out of the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman to cause her to be swept away by the river. Now, rivers in scriptural prophecy represent peoples, nations, and tongues. So out of the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman. I believe this is millions, maybe tens of millions of people chasing after these saints, these set apart ones who are fleeing to the wilderness out of the mouth of the serpent. Where's the serpent? In the built up areas. Where are the people? In the built up areas. Where are the Father's people supposed to be getting away from? The built up areas out into the wilderness. And so there's like this river, like a flood of people chasing down the Father's chosen people. And out of the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river after the woman to cause her to be swept away by the river. Now it might literally be a river. It could be people. And the earth helped the woman. Why would the earth help the woman? Because it was created by Yah. It is subject to Yah. It obeys Yah. The earth helped the woman, the church, the saints. I keep saying the church. What I mean by the church is not the big C, 2 billion people Christian church filled with pagan ideology and idolatry. I mean the literal definition that we have here, the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua Messiah. That's what I mean. This remnant. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and swallowed up the river which the dragon had spewed out of its mouth. Now, where else did we see the earth opening up and swallowing up people? How about Torah portion Korach? Numbers chapter 16. And what was going on there? Korah had a false sense of belief that he should be the high priest. And he came against the anointed of Yah, Moshe and Aaron, with 250 top leaders of Israel. And the Father opened the earth and swallowed their tents up and erased their bloodline from the face of the earth. And then fiery hail fell and destroyed Korah and his rebels. So this earth swallowing people up move, it's not new to Yah. He's done it before. And who did he do it to? Pretenders to the throne, essentially. Copycats, wannabes, the false priest. And the dragon, Hasatan, was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua Messiah. So who is the remnant of her seed, of this woman? Very clear stipulation here. Those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua Messiah. Second witness is on the next page, Revelation 14:12. Here's the endurance of the set apart ones, the saints. Here are those guarding the commands of Elohim and the belief of Yeshua Messiah. Let's flip to Romans real quick. Romans 11, which is all about being grafted in. By the way, if you're going to read Shaul of Tarsus, rebranded the Apostle Paul by the early church, Shaul of Tarsus, who was a Pharisee and knew the Torah and kept the Torah, read the book of Acts if you have any doubt. Read 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 if you have any doubt. Which, by the way, I'm just going to say this politely. I'm amazed at the number of wackos and nut jobs that have come out of the woodwork with this Revelation series. I'm not here to pee in your Cheerios. I'm also not here to lie to you and tickle your ear and spit some doctrine and dogma at you. I'm also not here to perpetuate esoteric untruths. I'm here to read the Bible and tell you what the Bible says. And if that's not cool with you, roger that. You're probably at the wrong channel. And that's okay. You just need to go. I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to bicker back and forth in the comments. I'm not looking to tear anybody down. It's the opposite. I'm looking to build you up in the truth of the living word. And that's what's going to matter at the end of an age. Not what you were taught it says. Not what you think it says. What it says. Not what you want to do. Not what you were taught that you should do. What it says you should do. Not what you feel the truth is, or what you think the truth is, what the biblical truth is. That's what I'm here to do. And if that doesn't float your boat, you need to find a new lake to sail in. Okay? Romans 11. I say then, has Elohim rejected his people, Israel? Let it not be, for I also am of Israel. This is Shaul of Tarsus, rebranded the Apostle Paul speaking, of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin. Elohim has not rejected his people. Well, there goes replacement theology. Whom he knew beforehand. Or do you not know the scripture that says of Eliyahu, Elijah, how he pleads with Elohim against Israel, saying, Yahweh, they have killed your prophets and overthrown your slaughter places, and I alone have left, and they seek my life. But what does the answer of Elohim say to him? I have left for myself 7,000 men who have not bowed the knee to Baal, false worship. So therefore also at this present time a remnant, according to the choice favor, has come to be. A remnant. Has Elohim rejected his people? Let it not be. There is no replacement theology. There's just bad doctrine and dogma. But this remnant, prophesied remnant, by the way, before the book of Revelation. How about Zechariah chapter 8? Bonus points if you can find Zechariah without flipping to the front of the book. Flipping slowly. I might eat those words, huh? Zechariah chapter 8. Page 639 in the scriptures. It's not long. We'll read all of it. And the word of Yahweh of hosts, the Lord Yahweh Sabaoth of hosts. By the way, Yahweh Sabaoth, the Lord of hosts, means Yah arrayed for battle. These are the heavenly hosts. Remember Michael, the warrior angel, and all of his bros up there doing battle? It's like when General James Mattis says Jim Mattis, United States Marine Corps. You understand that he is speaking on behalf of the entirety of the United States Marine Corps. Jim Mattis of hosts, okay? The Lord Yahweh Sabaoth, Yahweh of hosts, came saying, Thus said Yahweh of hosts, I shall be jealous for Zion, Jerusalem, Israel. With a great jealousy, with great wrath, I shall be jealous for her. Thus said Yahweh, I shall return to Zion, and I shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem. And Jerusalem shall be called the city of truth, and the mountain of Yahweh of hosts, the set-apart mountain. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, again old men and old women shall dwell in the streets of Jerusalem, each one with his staff in his hand because of great age. And the streets of the city shall be filled with boys and girls playing in the streets. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, if it is marvelous in the eyes of the remnant of this people in these days, should it also be marvelous in my eyes, declares Yahweh of hosts? Thus said Yahweh of hosts, see, I am saving my people from the land of the sunrise and from the land of the sunset. And I shall bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Luke 1 verse 6. Righteousness is blamelessly walking in the commands of Yah. What does blameless mean? Not knowingly breaking the commands. What is sin? Sin is lawlessness. What are the law? The commands. 1 John 3 verse 4. Look it up with your own eyeballs. And I shall bring them back, and they shall dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and they shall be my people, and I shall be their Elohim in truth and in righteousness. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, let your hands be strong, you who are listening in these days to these words from the mouth of the prophets, to the day of the foundation was laid for the house of Yahweh of hosts. The Hekal, the temple, was to be rebuilt. For before these days there was not a wage for a man, nor a hire for a beast, and there was no peace for him who went out or came in, because of his enemies. And I set all men against one another. But now I am not as in the former days to the remnant of this people, declares Yahweh of hosts. Because of the sowing of peace the vine does give fruit, the ground does give her increase, and the heavens do give their due. And I shall cause the remnant of this people to inherit all of these. What people? Those who are worshiping Elohim in truth and in righteousness, have a witness of Yeshua, and keep the commands. And it shall be, as you were a curse among the nations, O house of Judah and house of Israel, so I shall save you, and you shall be a blessing. Do not fear, let your hands be strong. For thus said Yahweh of hosts, as I purposed to do evil to you when your fathers provoked me, declares Yahweh of hosts, and I did not relent. So again these days I have purposed to do good to Jerusalem and to the house of Judah. Do not fear. These are the words you should do. These are the words you should do. Speak truth to one another. Judge with truth and right ruling for peace in your gates. One of y'all made the comment last week, who are you to judge, Bear? Right here. Yah commands you, judge with truth. And these are the words you should do. Speak the truth to one another. Judge with truth and right ruling for peace in your gates. And do not plot evil in your heart against one another. And do not love a false oath, for all these I hate, declares Yahweh. And the word of Yahweh of hosts came to me, saying, thus said Yahweh of hosts, the fast of the 4th and the 5th, fast of the 5th and the fast of the 7th and the fast of the 10th months are to be a joy and gladness and pleasant appointed times for the house of Judah, and they shall love the truth and peace. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, people shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities. People shall yet come, inhabitants of many cities. And the inhabitants of the one go to another, saying, let us earnestly go and pray before Yahweh and seek Yahweh of hosts. I myself am going. And many peoples and strong nations shall come to seek Yahweh of hosts in Jerusalem and to pray before Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh of hosts, in those days 10 men from all languages of the nations take hold. Yes, they shall take hold of the edge of the garment of a man, a Yehudi, a Jew. Let us go with you, for we have heard that Elohim is with you. And the dragon was enraged with the woman, and he went to fight with the remnant of her seed, those guarding the commands of Elohim and possessing the witness of Yeshua, Messiah. Revelation chapter 12. Last word. We got a lot of new people here, and that's super encouraging. I realize you lack the context for who I am and what I believe. And maybe that catches you off guard because I am not soft-spoken or apologetic. I don't tickle the ears. I am an iron hand inside a velvet glove, and I lost the velvet glove. I believe that Yeshua is Messiah. And I believe that we are supposed to keep the Torah to the best of our ability. And I believe that all men shall rise from the dead, per Daniel 12, to be judged at the end of an age. And some will be found to be righteous, and some will not. And those that are righteous shall enter into the gates of the city, Revelation chapter 22, and spend eternity with Yah. And those that aren't will enter into Sheol, the place of the dead, and spend eternity away from Yah. And I believe that you are blameless for not keeping the commands of Yah if nobody has ever told you. But I also believe that because of this channel, you could be in grave danger. If now you know you are commanded to do these things. Matthew 5:17, Matthew 7:21, Matthew 19 verse 17, John 12 verse 50. Do the homework, look with your own eyeballs. And if you are unwilling to look with your own eyeballs and read your own word and come to your own conclusions and pray over it, don't you dare leave a derogatory comment if you will not equip yourself with knowledge and wisdom and understanding from the Most High before you dare speak against him and his word, because that's what I'm bringing to you. And so once you know, you can't be held blameless any longer. Sorry, not sorry, bro. Yahweh will bring all things into right ruling. We are covered by the blood of the Lamb. He was and is our atonement. But 1 Peter 2:21, for this you were called, that Messiah, having suffered for your sins, that you might walk in his steps, that in him there is no sin, and no deceit was found in his mouth. That being reviled, hated, he did not revile in return, but committed himself to him who judges righteously, who hung upon the timber, the stake, the staros for your sins. For you were like sheep who had gone astray, but have now returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls. You were called to Messiah to walk as he walked, and there is no sin in him. And sin is defined in the New Testament, 1 John 3 verse 4, as lawlessness. All who do sin do lawlessness. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 makes it clear that the lawless one is the Antichrist. Not the Christ, the Antichrist. Corinthians 2 verse 14. Colossians 2:14. Everybody's nailed to the cross argument. Go read it. What was nailed to the cross was doctrines and dogmas of men, not the Father's perfect law. The renewed covenant that every Big C Christian church today says that we're all under, in Hebrews chapter 8 verses 6 through 13, is so new that it comes out the Old Testament book of Jeremiah, where the requirement for you to be under the new covenant is that the Father's laws will be in your mind and written on your heart, and then he will be your Elohim and you will be his people, and he will remember your sins and your lawlessness no more. Shall we sin all the more so that grace may abound? No, Yah forbid. Now no man is righteous, no, not one. None of us can perfectly do the Torah. If we could do the Torah perfectly, we wouldn't need a Mashiach. We wouldn't need Messiah. Everything would be hunky-dory. We wouldn't need to be reading Revelation. Everything would already be in order. We can't do it perfectly. That's why we have a Messiah. But shall we sin all the more so that grace may abound? No, God forbid. And James, James the just, the brother of Messiah, says in James chapter 1:22, be not hearers of the word, but doers also. Do the word. You have to live it. You have to walk it out. And we don't do the Torah because we're justified by the works of the Torah. We are justified. We can come into the presence of the Father by the blood of the Lamb because of the atoning sacrifice of his only begotten Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, what most people call Jesus the Christ. Our works don't justify us. Our works are the fruit of our obedience. That if Yeshua came to remove sin from the world and from you, wouldn't it be good to know what sin is? Sin is lawlessness. And you cannot have a lawless biblical Messiah. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. The Antichrist, not the Christ, the Antichrist is the man of lawlessness. That's what I believe after decades of research and untold hours of prayer, and having read through this Bible 7 times in the last 5 years. That's where I'm at. And if you want to know how I got there, search Bear Independent Testimony in the YouTube search bar and you'll find it. It's a 3-part series, doesn't fit in one video. Where I came from, how I came to this conclusion, and how I walk it out. The Bible is one continuous love story from the Father to his people. And there's a reason they put all of it inside of this binding. My brothers in Christ, it's not done away with. And I want you to make it into the city at the end of the book. And that's why I get so passionate about this. And I don't want to argue with you. If you want to argue, the comments is not the place for you. Revelation 21:27, and there shall by no means enter into it the city whatever is unclean, neither anyone doing abomination and falsehood, but only those who are written in the Lamb's book of life. Revelation 22 verse 12. And see, I, Yeshua, am coming speedily, and my reward is with me to give to each according to his work. I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are those doing his commands, Yahuwah's commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city. But outside are the dogs, and those who enchant with drugs, and those who whore, and the murderers, and the idolaters, and all those who love and do falsehood. I don't know what else to say other than I do this as a labor of love because the Father has convicted me to do it. Because many of y'all are listening. Praise Yah, many of y'all are listening. As for the rest who aren't, take it up with your Creator. Shalom.